How's it going, friends? Today we are looking at a neighborhood that we deemed one of the best places to buy a new build home in all of the Twin Cities. We're at the corner of Main Street and Central Avenue. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of new things happening in this suburb, in this town, in this city. And we're talking about St. Michael, Minnesota. I think you're gonna like this one. Let's go. All right, y'all, Oscar and I are here. We're walking down St. Michael Parkway, which eventually just meets up with or sort of merges with Central Avenue. And then Main Street is basically right behind us back there. And St. Michael is a suburb in the northwest suburbs. It's pretty close to as far northwest as you can get before you're out of the metro, but not quite. You can go a little further and you're still arguably in the metro area. And a lot of that is thanks to I-94. And we are very close to I-94, St. Michael is. And because it's such a major, through, and a lot of that is because of I-94. And really just because it's such a major, artery. A lot of the development tends to, go right along the I-94 court. And to the north of here, so just a little bit further north, a little bit further from the metro, you have Albertville. And really it's almost exactly the same distance from the metro, but it is a little further north, technically as the crow flies, but it's also right along I-94. So that's Albertville. To the east, we have Rogers. Rogers is a pretty main suburb. To the east of St. Michael's, you have Rogers. A while back, maybe a couple of years ago, we did videos on Albertville, Rogers, and St. Michael, kind of all right in a row. My personal opinion is that St. Michael is sort of, popping off the most. It's kind of got the most interest to it. But really, collectively, the lifestyle would be pretty darn similar with all of those. They have really similar pros and cons, lists, and all that. And then to the south, you have Otsego, and to the west, you have Dayton. We're about 30 miles to downtown Minneapolis, about 40 miles to downtown St. Paul. So it is a pretty good click, a pretty good distance to either of the downtowns. And you're about 30 miles as well from the MSP airport. Drive times can obviously vary super dramatically, and I would say maybe even a little bit more. Sorry, Oscar's steering me. And I would say being up here in the northwest of the metro, your drive times can vary maybe a bit more than some of the other suburbs. And a lot of that is because you're so heavily reliant on I-94, and I-94 really does have a tendency of getting a pretty heavy bit of traffic and a lot of slowdowns. But it varies so much, because on a day with minimal traffic, it can be such a delight and such a breeze because, it's high speeds the whole way, really, really wide highways as well. And actually, do you see right back there? This is basically, I took a turn here, and that's where St. Michael Parkway basically connects with Central Avenue. It's not a huge run with St. Michael Parkway, but it is kind of in this interesting sort of downtown-ish area. Population of St. Michael is 18,000 people, so it's not huge, but the growth it's seeing has been pretty dramatic over the past 2 decades. St. Michael used to be a very small town, and you'll see decades and decades worth of gaps of housing stock in St. Michael, where you can see things from the early 1900s, maybe 1940, and then nothing for, again, decades, half century, and then a pretty good amount of new builds. But that's just how the metro has developed pretty much everywhere, and now is St. Michael's time. A big part of what makes this St. Michael's time, in my opinion, are the schools. The schools rank really quite well in St. Michael. You have the St. Michael Albertville School District, which is ISD 885. That gets an A overall according to Niche. St. Michael Elementary, Big Woods Elementary, Fieldstone Elementary, all get A. St. Michael Middle School, both East and West, 2 different schools, both get an A-. And then St. Michael Albertville High School, grades 9 through 12, gets an A- as well. So you have straight A's for all of the elementary schools, and then straight A- for middle and high school. So while it's not necessarily top 5, it's actually pretty close. And it's basically impossible to miss, right? If you end up in that school district, the schools are going to be pretty dang good. And so how much does it cost to live in St. Michael? That number is going to range quite a bit given the, the ages of homes. You have some early 1900s homes and then a lot of brand new homes. But the median sale price is about $445,000. And I'm going to venture a guess that most of the homes that I've sold in the last year or so are new bids. There's some just really, really good values up here, especially when you combine them with what I just talked about, schools, right? And there's about 55 active listings right now. About 55 homes are sold per month. And again, a lot of those being new builds. And the prices range from about $375,000 up to $550,000. And lot sizes tend to be pretty decent, pretty suburban lot sizes, quarter of an acre or so. And the average size of the home here is pretty big, probably somewhere around 2,500 square feet. You can buy a lot of these new build homes with no basement. So that'd be 2,500 square feet plus the option to finish out a basement. So maybe 3,500 square feet or so. Really good sized homes. Although, of course, you could buy an older home for considerably cheaper, and it will be considerably smaller, but I think so much of the value proposition of St. Michael right now is how much house you can get for your money in a place that has a lot to like. And real quick, if you're watching this for the first time or kind of new to the channel, just want to say that my name is Jesse Lynch. I run the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To the Twin Cities. You can check out our website, tothetwincities.com. But this YouTube channel, it's all about helping my place to balls here in the Twin Cities. A little bit of wind, not mad at it. It's a little warm, a little too warm for sweatshirt today. But relocation is what we do. It's what we do better than anybody else. It's what we spend all of our time thinking about and solving problems for. And we help so many people with that process that we just keep getting better and better at it. And we would love very much to help you through that process. We have a podcast channel that it also explores people's journeys, people's process of relocating here. And we have a lot of episodes on that. So if you're looking for other people's perspective aside from our own team, I think that will be a really, really good resource. They're hour and a half long conversations with people who are moving from all over the country, from, Texas, Florida, Arizona, California, Seattle, places in the Midwest like Iowa, Chicago, Lewis. We just had some folks from DC who we were talking to. We've helped people from literally all over the place, all over the planet, and we would love to help you. So if you're interested, go to our website, tothetwincities.com, and we have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less. It's pretty slick and pretty limited information. And then we'll get things going. We'll put things in motion and get you headed in the right direction. And with no further ado, let's get back to St. Michael. All right, y'all, right now I'm in Barthel Park in the Lakeshore Park neighborhood. I've actually helped a couple sets of people get into this Barthel Park neighborhood. Really, really beautiful spot. Not just nicely laid out development. Kind of has Barthel Park, at its core, and it's right by Gons Lake. But really nice homes, and I would say Hanson Builders and MI Homes are kind of the biggest here, maybe the only two in this neighborhood, but nice range of houses too. I want to talk through the pros and cons though of St. Michael as I see them. And obviously I think pro number one, I've already talked about it, is the schools. Schools are really good here, and you really can't go wrong. I think I said A's all across the elementary schools, and then A- for all middle schools and the high school. That's really just very good, right? And then you have a good blend of amenities too in St. Michael. It definitely is suburban. Used to be rural not too long ago, and still has some of that vibe going on. But as far as amenities go, you've got, you know, a couple like breweries and bars, kind of cooler, more like modern style of that, not necessarily just dive bars, although there are a couple dive bars. And you've got a few good restaurants and cafes and stuff. Oscar is smelling something good over here. And then natural foods, kind of farm to table restaurants, couple of those, and then even like water parks, library, really nice library, gyms, things like that. Of course, there are very nice outdoor spaces, not like a cajillion park spaces, right? But some really, really good ones. This one in particular, really, really just beautiful community park all in all. I know I've already showed you around a little bit, but Oscar is super interested in something going on in this, what I think is Carl Forester grass right here. But you also have some off-leash dog trails. Oscar, not ready for that yet. And even like a campground, so good outdoor spaces. Then you just have really good values for houses, and I would say specifically as it pertains to new builds. It's tough to beat some of the value in terms of what you get for your money for houses, and then combined with sort of the vibe of everything else. But you have these nice neighborhoods with nice new infrastructure, very well designed neighborhoods in my opinion, and some really good builders from, you know, pretty affordable, even some townhomes and some patio style homes, all the way up to a more luxurious side of things with the likes of Hanson Builders. If you see the houses in the background here, anything with like the green wrapping, that's a Hanson build, and they have a really good reputation of being a bit more high end with the finishes and things like that. Then the last pro I'm going to say is basically just like a very nice community feel, right? There is a bit of coziness, and some of it feels like by design, like these newer neighborhoods, again, feels like it was designed to feel this way. And then of course the old school downtown, you know, you've got like the cool old church at the center of it, but it seems like the feeling of community has probably existed for a long time here, and they're really trying to maintain that as it even continues to expand. And then we're going to start heading back here. As far as cons go, the biggest one to me is the distance from the cities, the distance from the airport. You're easily 30 minutes to like downtown Minneapolis, easily 30 minutes to the airport. And yeah, I think if it weren't for that, the houses would be more expensive. It would be growing at an even faster rate because it has so many other things going for it, that sort of the proximity to downtown is like the one thing that's sort of helping keep it on the bit more affordable end. I've driven here from the Highland Park neighborhood in St. Paul quite a few times lately, and maybe 55 minutes if you're in traffic. So again, not a short trip at all. And then another con is that, you know, we have this term that we call echoes of a rural past. There's a little bit of that, and really it's just that this area is so in flex, right? That you might be driving by some kind of unsightly, almost industrial, kind of old school commercial, rural commercial things on the way to do whatever you're doing throughout the day. So while it's generally quite lovely, beautiful natural aspects, you might end up driving by or parking by or whatever, some, I don't know, just some commercial spaces that aren't the most attractive in general. And then I would say, like, last cons are really just the size, right? It's 18,000 people. It's kind of this old small town, And so there's somewhat limited services, somewhat limited access to, you know, the amenities. Although I will say, for a town of 18,000, it's pretty hard to be mad at it. Like, yeah, it's not the city, right? Like the cuisine is not going to be anything like what you would get in the city proper, but it's actually like pretty good. Again, it's got like a bit of soul to it, a bit of a heartbeat, while still being, you know, pretty proper suburban. So who is St. Michael like really for, right? I would say it's for people who want kind of an idyllic suburban aesthetic to their lifestyle with pretty tight community vibes, good schools obviously, but who really don't intend on going to downtown very often, or don't care about an hour-long drive, right? I think there's tons of people that we've helped from cities where an hour is nothing, right? To get to the good stuff, to get to, you know, sort of the cultural events in the city. They're like, yeah, an hour, I could have lived 5 miles away and it was an hour to get downtown. You know, it's gonna take a while, especially during rush hour, but if you can handle that and you want the suburban lifestyle, it's really got a lot going for it, especially with the cost of homes, the cost of living in general. It's really all quite good. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I have a section that I like to call the For Fans of section, which is to say, if you like what you see here, there might be some other spots in the metro that you want to check out. Some what maybe are good like comps or good like cousins to the St. Michael neighborhood. And a lot of that is because we really have found that when people are moving here from somewhere else, they have a lifestyle in mind, but they don't necessarily have one spot. They haven't put in roots here yet. And that's the whole goal, right? Is to find somewhere they can put roots in. And so that's why we started to make this For Fans of section, to sort of, you know, help give some other spots to consider, some other videos on this channel to watch, for example. By the way, I'm at City Center Park. There's this very cool splash pad back here and some pickleball courts over here. I will say this shade feels quite nice. And it's just a very pretty park, and it's literally right along Central Avenue, which is basically right behind that splash pad. So before I get into any of these other comps, these other places you might want to look into, just want to say one more time, if you're interested in moving to the Twin Cities, we would love to help you. It's what we do, is what we spend all of our time thinking about and trying to solve problems for. So go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less. And we'll get the show on the road. That's the easiest way to do it. And that's very much how we prefer and how we found is just the most effective way. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, of course, and we're gonna keep putting out some very good videos on, you know, topics like this for you, all in the interest of being helpful before you even reach out to us. So what are those spots that you might want to consider? I think there are two that are right by. They're basically the neighbors right next to St. Michael, and that's Albertville and Rogers. Again, we have videos on both of those. We did them about the same time as we did St. Michael, you know, a couple years ago. Really good comps to each other, both geographically and just overall lifestyle. On the very southern end of the metro, I think the best comp from overall value proposition, similar qualities in general, is Lakeville, Minnesota, with the caveat that there's a lot more people in Lakeville. And I would say it feels a little bit less close to rural these days. It's a bit more developed. It seems to me that Lakeville is what St. Michael will be in a couple years, right? In maybe a couple decades, I guess is probably a bit more realistic. And it's really just because of what it has to offer and sort of the overall lifestyle, the schools, but just kind of a beautiful spot in general. And then in the southwest, there's two neighborhoods that come to mind. The smaller town of the two is Waconia, and I think that has a pretty similar kind of like heartbeat, maybe a little bit more small town, a little bit more like rural facing, if that makes sense. And then there's Victoria. Victoria is a little bit closer into the cities than Waconia, really good schools, a cute little downtown. I would say more expensive, typically a bit more on the luxury end of homes, but there is still some pretty good affordability there, and yeah, pretty decent comp. So check those out, and as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.